Ukraine update now, and since we last podcasted to you, Donald Trump has used a very trendy insult towards Volodymyr Zelensky, called him a dictator. Now, people get very cross, some people get very cross when you pass Trump off as a dictator simply because he acts, talks, and rules like a dictator. We've got to remember he's a democratically elected leader with a mandate from the people of the USA to behave like a dictator to the rest of the world. That is a very important difference to make. It's also not entirely clear when Trump called Zelensky a dictator if it was meant as a criticism or a glowing compliment, the political equivalent of the snooker player tapping a cue on the cushion after their opponent has left them in a tricky spot on the baulk cushion behind the green. So, also, I mean, looking at the way the world is going, the way Trump is governing, if that's the right word, America, this is not so much the pot calling the kettle black as the lawnmower calling the terrapin a lawnmower. It was a kind of strange. Well, no, I mean, it would be. In previous times, you would have thought this a strange thing, that the American president, siding, as we discussed last week, with America's implacable enemy over its allies. But this is 2025. That means you can hear the honking in the background here in Aberdeen. People are not happy about it. Trump also turned his fire on Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron, saying they have not done anything to end the Ukraine war. And again, we've discussed in recent weeks that not doing anything and then doing something doesn't mean that something is necessarily the right thing to do. But anyway, Anuvab, what have you made of this?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what not doing anything means. I think in Trump's book, does not doing anything mean he hasn't threatened to bomb Ukraine along with Russia till they reach a settlement?
Yes, doing nothing means you're not having cozy afternoon tea with Putin. And he also said that Zelensky had no cards in peace negotiations. And I didn't know they were sending cards. Is it a Hallmark holiday? Is this how this works?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have cards in peace negotiations because Trump has just taken all the cards out of his hand and given them to his opponent. So, I mean, yes, I guess there's an element of truth in that he doesn't have cards to play. Trump also said Russia wants to stop the savage barbarianism. And look, I don't know if any of you listening, Buglers or Anuvab or Tiff, have you got any suggestions for how Russia might stop the savage barbarianism that it is perpetrating itself? I don't know how it might do that. I mean, there are, I guess, I mean, one way would be to just stop it. Rather than just wanting to stop it, would be to actually stop it. But evidently that's quite a big step politically.
It's weird to call Zelensky a dictator when he's doing classic dictator things like offering to step down if it stops the invasion or if Ukraine can join NATO. You know, I mean, you could offer world peace and an end to all hunger, and Trump would not step down. He'd still be wanting to rule whilst he's a cryogenically frozen head, cold Lazarus style, in the 24th century, where Britain becomes America's 51st state and all experiences are virtual via your Tesla shit. Sorry, did I just describe a dystopian Dennis Potter novel, or is this a possibility of our future? I don't know.
The dividing line between those is more blurred than ever.
The way I look at the way geopolitics is being played right now is very similar to what my yoga teacher told me this Sunday. I've started going to yoga. I'm sorry to report this. My wife's been taking me to yoga, and I think what Donald Trump is saying to Zelensky is exactly what my yoga teacher said to me in my first class, because I wasn't doing the stretch in the downward dog correctly. And he said, stop resisting. And I think Donald Trump's saying the same thing to countries that are being invaded. Stop resisting. Let things flow.
Stop resisting, and then I'll claim credit for creating peace, world peace.
He did blame Zelensky for starting the war, which was... I mean, even by Trump's standards, impressively inaccurate. I guess, you know, but then again, he's a man who has complained about how Abraham Lincoln got blood all over John Wilkes Booth's lovely clean bullet. So,
and Musk blasted Zelensky for doing an old Vogue photo shoot during wartime. It was from 3 years ago, but he said he did this while kids are dying. And that is the same Musk who went on a PR spree when those Thai kids were trapped in a cave to sort of publicise how Tesla could fix this, then called the rescuers pedos. You did that whilst kids were dying, Elon. You did that. And I don't really understand how the idea of like doing publicity and or propaganda, which all seem to be blurring into one these days anyway. I thought I'm going to do propaganda for my upcoming tour, actually. I'm not going to do publicity. I'm going to just do pure propaganda. But, doing a story where you get a chance to reach lots of people to tell them what's going on in your country, I don't really know how that can be seen as a bad thing. And actually, Vogue were like quite intrinsic during the Second World War, weren't they, with their, photojournalism and stuff for a fashion magazine. They actually, Lee Miller famously like shot all this stuff, so you're just sort of reaching people you wouldn't normally. But maybe Musk is jealous because he hasn't been asked to do Vogue.
Exactly. I mean, look, I guess he's trying to get on any media for Western support. I guess he would have done Twitter, but it costs $9 to verify yourself every month. So, I mean, I'm sure he wanted new media, but it's so expensive. He had to go for traditional media.
Boris Johnson said that, basically said that all Trump was trying to do, and it might seem to our untrained, less expert heads that Trump is just caving into Putin, betraying America's allies and willfully abandoning everything that America used to claim to stand for. All he was actually doing, according to Boris Johnson, is trying to shock Europeans into action, and said people need to stop being scandalised by Trump's words and instead help him to end the war. Now, on many readings of other realities than the one Boris Johnson lives in, Europe has been trying to end the war by helping Ukraine beat Russia. I mean, obviously that's quite a big task, ineffectively, in the place of Putin's willingness to send his own people to slaughter and be slaughtered. He's not a nice man, Vladimir Putin. That's just my opinion. This is an opinion-based podcast. I'm prepared to say that. But being scandalised by Donald Trump's words, I mean, to me, that's a necessary step to try to achieve an end to the war. Crucially, an end to the war that actually ends the war, not an end to the war which gives Putin a lot more power and I don't know, determination to start another war, for example. But of course, there are two sides to every coin, and no one uses coins anymore. There are about 35 sides to every banknote once you've folded it into an origami mushroom cloud. And we live in a cashless society. There are infinite sides to every cryptocurrency. In summary, I can't remember what I'm talking about, but I'm not happy about it.
Andy, listen, this winter, I don't know what got over me, but I read the official biography of Boris Johnson titled Unleashed. And in it, this is the same gentleman that at the height of the Ukraine war writes in his biography that he threatened Vladimir Putin to an arm wrestling match.
Well, that's what they would have done at the Bullingdon Club to fix it. So don't expect any more maturity from Boris. Now he's in, his 60s?
I think, yeah, I mean, technically in terms of age, that might be right. But I mean, it really depends how you measure what those numbers, I guess. Donald Trump also, he basically declared himself King of America in a social media post. To do with congestion charging in New York, and which he says he's going to end. And he posted a mock-up of a magazine cover saying "Long live the King" with a picture of him with a crown on. Now, I mean, that's a weird kind of line through history. George III, big gap. Donald Trump as kings of America. But also it's kind of a bit of a weird thing for Trump to go for. Does he not realise how little power kings actually have these days? I'm not sure. I just don't think that would suit him, to be honest. I just have to go around opening supermarkets and not saying anything. But anyway, whatever you say about Donald Trump, he's not. I think it's fair to say he's not an overly committed historian, and he might need a little bit of reminding. There was a time that America decided having a king wasn't really its thing anymore. I mean, obviously, it's not worked out for them. But yes, I guess that does also lead to concerns about what other aspects of America's past Donald Trump might be looking at reintroducing. And I really, really don't want to go down that path.
Go into the bullshit. It's like into the light. Into the bullshit, Andy. Into the bullshit. Follow the bullshit.
I mean, all I would say in conclusion to this section and just the general state of the world, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, looking at the state of the world has bigger problems than some people wanting to use different pronouns. Look, I don't have any scientific evidence to back it up yet. At the moment, it's just a hunch, but I'm thinking that might not be the biggest problem that humanity faces. So, I have to disagree with the leader of the Conservative Party on that.